So then we are back with a modern understanding from the time of the Second Tabernacle service, the refined in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per YershiYAhu the prophet. We find in the 61st chapter the prophet explaining areas of the completion of the spring feast, autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. During this time then, where the holy cities are truly returning, and the first holy city of this period of the restoration is precisely on the land of Cush, as per the instructions of the Creator, per the mouth of the prophet. So then, the Gentiles were also included in the plan of this restoration period, not as the same as similar as tabernacling, but then the Creator very wisely decided of having the nations then included in the plan, because He knew at the end of the 1,000 years of deceit, nations would be broken. So then, obviously, during this time where we find in many areas of the Asian market always forward, always improving, and the reason why, it's because of the teachings of YershiYAhu many centuries ago. How to do trade, how to take care of the kingdom to come principles, and those were widely known during the time of Yohanan until 1009. So then, obviously, we find then the records thus far regarding the Alexandrian library. The Alexandrian library was then burnt, and then obviously in the library were then the records of the relationship of the holy cities and the Gentiles. So Nahashatan very wisely then, he had a place where then this gathering of documents would be then in a unique place and then burnt. But then we have scores of records of the holy instructions regarding holy cities. So then we can understand the main portion of trade while the nations are being linked up with the dragon's system. It's not a bad term. It simply relates with Daniel and his instructions regarding then the trade in high knowledge or computer trade, where then the scoundrelization of mid-man then is gone. Obviously, because of these, then we have a celebrity in our country during these couple days, Mr. Chi from China. He's visiting our country. But he's a person that is no time for BS. And you probably know what BS means, so I don't have to translate. So speaking of then cyber problems, cyber security and the such, he has no time to play with this. He has other areas on his agenda extremely important, such as the linking up of the European nations as they come out of the Eurozone. As we understand, Daniel the prophet said nations at the time of the 1,000 years of deceit. If you read the instructions very cautiously, you find this system of going to and fro, and then a system of their own, where then they would not adhere to each other. Those nations must be separated, so then the instructions they remain intact. As they are separated, then the job of Mr. Chi is obviously going around the world making deals with nations and then linking up with the dragon. Simply precision of trade, computerized trade. There is no mysticism regarding it. Much later then we find, prior of the combat of the end, then the spiritual aspects of the Baal and the dragon. But thus far we simply have the initiation of this understanding of what Daniel said in the 11th chapter and a couple of chapters later found in the Apocrypha. For some reason, these stupid translators of the past did not include the Apocrypha in the holy instructions. The Apocrypha is replete with the holy instructions, and for some reason they did not include. However, it was then included many centuries ago, but then for some reason excluded. So I'm not sure what kind of a nerve a person has of removing holy instructions from the instructions. But anyway, then because of the situation, then as far as the visit going on, our nation is heavily in debt, and our objective as far as then a creator is understanding his holy instructions. We find it in the 11th chapter of Daniel, the kingdom of the north and kingdom of the south, and you find then a couple of chapters later in the Apocrypha, then the kingdom of the east. The rest of the world or the nations then must do the work. So in order for these then become harmonious, we must then retrieve and rebuild. Because we must acknowledge that there is a creator, and we must submit under his holy hands, so then we can understand his holy tabernacling. So if we then place these understandings on paper, you begin to realize that these cyber problems is absolutely minuscule comparing with so many broken nations of the European Union, such as Portugal is in desperate situation, some parts of Spain desperate situation, Egypt is in a desperate situation, Syria is a desperate situation, and so many other countries. So the objective of Mr. Chi is going around the world licking up these nations. Because then, when we read then the 61st chapter of YershiYAhu, then we understand then Gentiles included in the plan. So then we have tabernacling and we have the trade of the end. There is no such situation of, let's make a deal that's going to benefit each other. Well, a person could understand that the ultimate desire of improvement and then prosperity obviously would include sections of these understanding, but from the instructions we find then the east, the dragon leads, and then the relationship of the kingdom of the north and south and east, and then the rest must work. So then, as far as the European Union, the Eurozone is breaking. They're breaking because Daniel said very precisely, during the time of the to and fro, nations would try to come together and adhere to each other, but they would not. It's a system with religion and trade mixed up. It didn't work. So as then the European Union then divides itself, then Mr. Chi has responsibility of going around and linking them up. That's why then China has then the most influential trade of the world, because of this linking up. So then we can understand the plan of the inclusion of the Gentiles. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.